but first today, Surrey Police are sending female officers posing as joggers out for a run around the county as part of new tactics designed to catch men harassing women while they're out exercising. Support crews follow on from a distance and they intervene if the officers experience catcalling or indeed harassment. And I think actually in a month they have made 18 arrests.
Really?
For harassment, sexual assault and theft, which is interesting. Mum of two boys, what do you think?
Yeah, you know, it's so interesting, isn't it? Because I always think about my boys. I'm always like, how am I going to implement all these things into their life? How am I going to teach them not to do things like that? And obviously at the minute they're still quite young, but they are, the eldest is starting to get into that age where he's getting into girls and stuff. So obviously I do have certain conversations with him, but I think stuff like this is great. Like, surely prevention is better than cure. If they're out there educating people in that moment that this is not the right way to act and this is what will happen to you if you do, then great. I think when I first heard it, I was a bit like, oh, it's going to be a waste of time. They could spend their money elsewhere. But actually, it is a big problem and maybe it will help.
It's interesting you say about those harassed, because I think there's... Because, again, when we only hear, you know, part of the story, I was a bit like you, thinking there's probably other things that they can be doing. But there's a big difference between sexual harassment and theft and what we are calling on here is catcalling. Because is that wolf whistling? I mean, to me, just because you might... It doesn't seem to happen these ways, certainly doesn't to me, but I mean, back in the day. I think that a wolf whistle doesn't necessarily mean that that is sexual harassment. At least I wouldn't perceive it as sexual harassment. I'd be quite glad of a one these days. But I'm talking about you walking past the building site doesn't mean that all those men are harassers or aggressors, in my opinion. So where are we drawing the line?
But they probably would stop something like that, would they? It would be the more...
Well, the thing is, you don't know where it's going to lead. And, I mean, I know we joke about this now and you go back to the day when, you know, we lived in a different era and it was wolf whistling and all right, darling, you're good. But certainly, I mean, my two girls, similar age to Nadia's, you know, 18 and 23, it's like they don't know where it's going to lead. And, OK, there's a wolf whistle. Yeah, nobody's going to get upset about that. But then if the next comment is, what's wrong with you then? You're not smiling. What's wrong? You're not talking.
Smile, it might never happen was always
But that kind of goes... And the thing is that I think a lot of guys have to start understanding that they might mean it as a joke, but the young woman or whoever doesn't know. And it is that moment of tension that you just don't know where it's going. And you don't need to catcall. You just don't need to do it.
But are we not being... This is a day when we are so precious about everything, and I'm not condoning anything other than, like I've said, a wolf whistle or smile at my...
Why do we need to wolf whistle?
I don't think...
Why do we need to wolf whistle? Why did they need to wolf whistle? What's the value of that?
I know, but Kaye, we're becoming a sort of a nanny state about absolutely everything. We've got to monitor everything we say, everything we do. I know I'm the mother of boys, and I think I've brought up my boys to be very respectful of women. I hope so. But I just worry about it. The other thing is, if I may say as well, is it's what's going to happen, because the other day, yesterday in the paper, and indeed I think on this show, there was a guy that had been arrested for grabbing a woman, putting his hand down her trousers, right? And she was terrified. She's been scarred by it. He was put in front of the judge, who said, oh, he had a terrible upbringing, he'll never do it again, slap on the wrist. So, you know, we've got to change. There's got to be...
But that's the point. We need to start re-educating. So I quite like this idea. Again, I don't know how effective it's going to be, but I would love them to be, like, on the tubes and on the trains and, like, some of that intimidation that goes on. Like my daughters say, you'd be sat and somebody comes sit right opposite you and just stare at you. Yeah. Now, that, if you go over and you're talking to younger people, we can't just say it's all impossible.
Yeah, but the guy on the train this week who dropped his trousers, the public, two guys jumped on him, but they're looking like they might be prosecuted, the guys themselves.
And that's wrong, because we do need to stand up. We need men to stand up for us in those situations. So that is terribly wrong.
But, I mean, I do think we need to help men understand what is and isn't acceptable. And not just men, actually, other women as well. I mean, University of Glasgow did a really interesting study recently in which I think it was about a third, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but a substantial amount of young boys who said it doesn't count as sexual harassment if I am joking.
Yeah.
Now, who defines if they are
Yeah,
joking?
but Kate,
And
there's
so the
also
girl,
a double standard between men and women as well, you know. I watch a lot of these, I love me Housewives, and I love all those Bravo shows and everything. There is a massive double standard about what we expect from men and what we expect from women.
Because
women are allowed to go, oh, my God, look, here he is. Oh, look at that, look at that. You know, we have a show called MILF Manor, which is on the television.
I don't subscribe to any of that at all, but I know that if my 18-year-old girl is in, you know, a dark place at night and there's a single guy, she's the one who's scared. Yeah. Not the guy. Yeah. He is not going to be scared of her. Whether they're both innocent, there's no intention.
Understand, but
she's the one who's going to be scared, and she has been in that situation. Both of them have been in that situation, and I know
when we
yours
say to young girls, "Oh, you'll miss it when you're older," I'm 60 and I don't miss it. I love being invisible. Yeah. Don't notice me; it's fantastic.
You can't not notice you, Nadia.
Well, I don't get wolf whistles or anything, and I love not getting them.